in brand building, I love in-house. There's just the ability, like if I have inventory I need to move, if I have overstock, to be able to include that as a free gift or put a handwritten note for all first-time orders, like the higher touchability, all of those things you get nickel and dimed on quickly in 3PL, right? And so if I have it internally, it just allows me to better serve my customers and hopefully create a higher retention rate because of our better customer experience.
Yeah, for sure. And I imagine that's been something that you've been, prioritizing from the beginning. Just kind of walk me through from the early days, like from when you started the company, where were you at? Like what inspired you to get started with this CBD company? And were you seeing like a trend in CBD industry, or was it more so like a personal opportunity that you were looking to solve, or what did that look like?
Yeah, kind of all the above. I mean, there wasn't really any trends because we were one of the first to get started, but I got invited to a grand opening of a little hemp company that was making CBD out in the mountains of Colorado. And I was at that grand opening and saw personal experiences, firsthand experiences of an older gentleman with PTSD whose life was changed through the product, a younger kid with a rare form of epilepsy, his life was changed through the product. And I actually got started with that smaller company first, all the way back in 2014, 2015. And I started wholesaling for them. And so I would buy their product at wholesale, resell at retail, and I would do that back in my hometown of Kansas City. And as with anything, when you do that, you start kind of with friends and family. And so I got to see friends and family start to be affected in big ways. I got to see my own childhood dog start to act like a puppy again after giving some to him. So I started taking some myself. And I had been diagnosed with Crohn's disease at an early age. And it helped my Crohn's, it helped my stomach a ton. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, it's helping my friend's mom with back pain. It's helping that older gentleman with PTSD. It's helping all these other things. And that's where I was doing research on it because I was so mind blown by it. And I discovered that we have an endocannabinoid system. That system, that to me was like my defining moment of like, I was in software. I graduated with a degree in information systems. I was working for a Fortune 50 company. I was very comfortable. I didn't need a new job. I didn't need a new challenge. But I just saw the potential for this product to change lives. And like, once I discovered the endocannabinoid system, it all made sense, right? Like in 1990, we discovered this system that exists in all of our bodies, and its purpose in our bodies is to create homeostasis, balance. And so all of a sudden, it all made sense that CBD wasn't the miracle. It was this system, and it was just finally activating this system and using this system. We're able to manipulate the system and get the results that we want. And so to me, it was like being told about my immune system for the first time and being told that there's going to be a market for vitamin C one day and you can get started right now. And so like, that was the way I really saw it, was like, wow, CBD is to the endocannabinoid system as vitamin C or vitamins are to the immune system and other things. And so that was what got me really excited about, like, this will never be done. Like, CBD is just one component. It's one piece of the cannabis plant where there's 100 others that we know about. So CBD is one. We know of 100 others. How is CBG or CBN or CBC, these other ones that we know of, what are we going to learn about those, and how much are they going to be able to be a potential to help people? And so to me, it was just like that vision of like, oh, wow, we're literally haven't even scratched the surface. We haven't even really started. I can dedicate my life to this and help people feel better naturally. And so that was kind of the defining moment. And then once we got started, we really wanted to tell that story that it was for everybody. It wasn't just for someone searching for X condition, for a solution for that. It was, even if you find yourself perfectly healthy, you think you're as healthy as you can be, we think you can be even more optimized. And what better way to tell that story than to partner with athletes to help us tell that story? Some of the ones that invest most into their health, that really have reached that peak level of optimization, can they help us tell that story? And so we started there. We had a bunch of UFC fighters that then started taking our product, found a bunch of relief, found faster recovery, found better sleep, found things, and it spread like wildfire from there. Once one of them kind of had a leg up, they all started using it, and then we continued forward. We noticed that UFC fighters, like who follows UFC fighters, who's actually watching UFC fighters, like maybe not people that actually care about their health, maybe people that just like to watch people fight. And so we wanted to take it one step further and say, like, who is the people now that we could attract that actually have the followers that we're looking for? And so that's when we started going after the CrossFit Games, because back then in 2018, they were the only sports organization that would partner with us. And so we could become the first cannabis company to partner with a major sports organization in CrossFit Games. But B, who watched the CrossFit Games in 2018? People that did CrossFit. Like, that was it. You weren't watching the CrossFit Games for fun. It was because you did CrossFit and you thought you could get there one day. And so you were someone who really cared about your health and wellness and really wanted the most. And so kind of our ideal customer from there. And so just continue to grow, continue to partner with sports organizations, ambassadors, influencers, celebrities. And a lot of that was through necessity as well, not because we were like super smart or anything. It was, we didn't have Facebook ads available to us. We didn't have Instagram ads. We didn't have Google ads. We didn't have pay-per-click retargeting. All of that was off limits because even though we were hemp and what we were doing was perfectly legal, the rest of the industry and all of those platforms and channels saw us as a marijuana company. So it wasn't allowed. And so we had to get creative a lot of the times. And it forced us to think outside of the box and get into ambassador influencer marketing really early. And so that's kind of where we started and how we got to where we are today.
Yeah. And I think, I could hear it in the way that you were explaining it, but just to kind of vocalize it, when it's a disruptive brand and you were founded in 2015, how many states had it legal to have CBD, or was it even legal? Was it decriminalized for CBD at that point?
I'll have to check. I think it's one. I think just Colorado, they passed a farm bill in 2014 that made hemp and hemp derivatives legal. It wasn't until 2018 that I think it was Trump at the time signed a farm bill that made it legal for the rest of the country. So from 2014 to 2018, I think it was only in Colorado. Kentucky might have had a farm bill as well. So it might have been Colorado and Kentucky. But that's why I moved to Colorado in 2016. We started in 2015 and I was like still remote at the time, but that was the only way to like really, sharpen your sword and learn the rest of the industry and make the network and meet the hemp farmers that were gonna, be growing the hemp for you to be able to extract from. And so Colorado from 2014 to 2018 was really like the formation of the entire industry. And Kentucky had a big piece in that. That's why I think they had a farm bill as well. But then, after 2018, after the federal farm bill was signed, that's when the whole industry really opened up and people really started pouring into it.
Yeah. So with that, and as I was saying, I could hear you kind of speaking this way with education, right? You were educating on the benefits of the product and, what is important with it. With disruptor products that we've worked with at BrighterClick, we've seen the same where when it's a disruptive product and it, people aren't familiar with the product type or maybe the change in it, it requires a good bit of education. And one thing that we've seen with paid ads, which were not eligible for CBD at the time, but is using PR or like news releases and turning that into ads because it adds that credibility as you're explaining things to people, right? And it seems like with the CBD product that you've had, the influencer or the ambassadors has really been that leverage point that you've focused on for credibility to get it to people from someone they trust. That's the vehicle. And then the education, I guess, comes on the website and through the content that those ambassadors are putting out. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even with our sponsorship of the Royals and our partnership with them, we have a physical location at Kauffman Stadium called The Lodge, and it's a bit of an experiential marketing play of like, it's shaded, it has big Mr. fans in it. If you're out at Kauffman Stadium during the summer, it gets really hot out there, and so if you can walk in there, all of a sudden you feel more relaxed, you feel better. You know, it's nice to be in there before finding your seats. And so it's a bit of an experiential marketing play, but it's also a place where we can educate the fans on the benefits of CBD, why they might want to try it out, the importance of being consistent with it to really see what it does for you. And then obviously the thing that I always go back to is the endocannabinoid system. Like, you have an entire system in your body, and you can kind of think of it as like a system of locks, and CBD is a key that can activate a lot of those locks, or maybe even turn off some of them. So it acts as an antagonist for some of the receptors and an agonist for others, but pretty much exactly what you would want if you were going in there and switching switches yourself. It, you know, turns off some pain receptors and things like that, which is why people find the relief that they find. So a lot of it is education forward, and we have so long to go, because not only were we fighting the stigma of, you know, reefer madness and marijuana being bad to our parents' generation further, but then you had the rise of CBD so quickly. I think it became a victim of its own success, where, you know, you saw CBD sold here signs, and it was attached to a seedy little head shop or something. So you're driving by and you see CBD sold here. You don't know what it is, but it's attached to a vape shop where they sell
Or like
kratom and whatever else.
tobacco store or something like
Yeah,
that.
and you're
Yeah.
like, I don't know what CBD is, but if it's sold there, it's not for me, right? Or you had, like, you saw it in a gas station, maybe you tried it out, you didn't have an effect because it's a really low quality product, and you're like, oh, CBD doesn't work for me. It's like, well, so now we're fighting all of that stigma on top of all this stigma that we already had to fight against. And so I think that is a bit of a struggle, but until we get to a point where, you know, the average American or the average person understands CBD in the same way they understand vitamin C. When, you know, if I'm worried about getting sick, I rip open a pack of Emergency, or I drink some orange juice, because I know that's got vitamin C in it. And I know that vitamin C is going to support my immune system, and it's going to strengthen that and help me fight off sickness. And so until we get to that point where people are like, oh, I'm taking CBD because I know it supports my endocannabinoid system and that helps me stay balanced, we still have a long, long road ahead of us as far as education.
So do you take on that stress or that weight? Like, do you feel obligated to market CBD more than your brand? Do you know what I mean by that?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think, you know, I'm friends with a lot of my big competitors. Some of the co-founders and CEOs, we call each other, you know, once a month, and we talk about stuff, because we know a rising tide raises all ships, and the ones that are doing it correctly, we all kind of root for each other, because there is still a lot of what I refer to as riffraff in the space, and some of these brands that have lower barriers to entry that are irresponsible with it. They make a bunch of claims, they do a lot of things, they cut corners, and so we want to see that fall away, and we want to see the brands that are doing it correctly rise. And so, but we do feel a bit of an obligation of like, man, we have to do this education for the entire industry, even more so than what our brand is. And I thought that would have been done a few years ago, and still to this day, it's crazy the amount of people that don't understand the product at all, and don't understand why they might be able to find benefit or value out of it.
Yeah, and I can imagine the influencers or the ambassadors play a good part for the people they do reach, to add a little bit of comfortability and just open up the receptors to taking in, you know, the idea of it working. How have you gone about, or maybe you could just walk us through a little bit, like how you've strategized reaching out to ambassadors and building that bridge? Because I think that's something that could potentially, you know, the fear of not being able to connect with them, or just not even knowing how to get in contact with people that they want to be ambassadors, could stop a lot of e-commerce brands from going that route. So what's a good path that you've generally taken?
Oh man, there's not a good answer to that question, because it's been a million different paths that I've worked in different scenarios. And if I told you some of the stories of how we got some of our ambassadors, you'd be like, "There's no way, dude." But I can share some of those with you. And I think where it really starts for us is two things you got to focus on first. One is your product. It has to be a stellar product. If it's not that, why would an ambassador want to rep it anyways? Two, for us, and this one's the most important, is authenticity. And so even if you're an ambassador, let's say you have 10 million followers, a huge ambassador that wants to rep our product. And if I ask you, like, okay, have you taken our product? And you say no, that's an immediate no. I'll send you a care package. I'll let you try it out, and I'll give you kind of best tips for how to use it. But if you come back to me and you don't find true value in what we're doing, it's not going to work. People are going to understand it's an ad read, and it's not going to convert near as well as if you're sharing an authentic experience of how it helped you or a loved one or something like that. So we really start with like sending out products. Like when we reach out to an ambassador that we think has a good fit or feels very aligned, we first say like, hey, can we send you a product? Can you provide us with your shipping address? Can we send it to you? We'll let you know a few ways of how we think that it could benefit you and how it can support you. And then we'll do that. Sometimes it's as easy as a DM. Sometimes it's friends of a friend of, knowing someone who manages a bunch of different influencers or types like that. One time we got a very large ambassador because one of my employees posted a photo of their merch. One of my employees was a big fan of this particular ambassador, and they posted a photo in their merch. And then that ambassador reposted that photo on their Instagram, and the employee was like, oh, they must be online if they just reposted. And so then they reached out and was like, hey, like, huge fan, by the way, I work for this company. Can we send you a care package? And they're like, yeah. And then it did wonders for them. Like they, found a ton of relief through using our product and have been an ambassador ever since for us through literally a mirror selfie. And so like there's no one right route to go. There's just kind of rules of thumb that I have. And I think it goes back to that like UFC versus CrossFit of like who's following and why are they following, right? So I've seen, we've partnered with a 4 million plus following female fitness Instagram user that barely converted at all. And when you really think about it, like who makes up that 4 million, right? Like how many of those are just guys that are waiting for like the next bikini photo on a beach and aren't actually following her for the products that she takes or the lifestyle that she lives? And so like you really have to consider the audience too, of who is really aligned. And you're not going to get it right all the time. You're not going to end up on the upside all the time. We've lost plenty of money on followers or on ambassadors that we thought were going to do really well for us that didn't, and they just didn't click. But that's not going to stop us from trying and figuring out where is the perfect alignment, because we've been wrong. We've been thinking that one ambassador might do very little for us, that then they blew up, and they've done a ton for us. And so we cast a really wide net. And because we believe in our product so much, we believe if we hand our product out to 10 different random people, 7 are going to come back with a crazy story of how much benefit and value that they found from the product. And so it starts with the product.
And is lifetime value driven by subscription for your business? Do you have a subscription model on your website?
We do. It's a pain in my butt right now. Once we switched over to Shopify, we used a company. I won't say them because maybe it's not their fault yet, but we've had a lot of struggles with the way they do things. And so I want a more robust subscription offering for our customers. And so I would love to be able to grow the subscription side in even more, even if it was like 50% of our direct consumer revenue, that would be awesome. I think it sits at like 10 or 15% right now. And it is, but I would love to, again, make it a more robust program. And so what I mean by that is like incentivize staying subscribed. And so like, maybe first subscription, you get 10% off, and second subscription in a row, you get 15, third, you get 25, fourth, you get 30, which we don't run a sale higher than 30. So like you get our best pricing at all times. You don't have to wait for our Black Friday sale or anything else. You get it but you have to stay, subscribed for 4 months in a row to get that, and then whatever. So like, it's just an idea, but I'd love to grow that side because, I think if you boil down marketing, and we're not just out to make money, we're out to make an impact. And so we don't always look at it this way, but this is your marketing mindset. Like, e-commerce is very, very, very complex, but it's very, very, very simple at the same time, right? Like, it boils down to how cheap can you acquire a customer and how high can you drive LTV?
Mm-hmm.
Like, at the end of the day, I think if you boil it down to its main components, that's going to be it. Like, how low can you get customer acquisition cost? How high can you get LTV?
Yeah, we always say 3 levers: get more customers, have them pay more per purchase, and increase their purchase frequency. Right.
Yep.
So, new customer, cost per acquisition, CPA, AOV, and then lifetime value that way as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
So yeah, I know you said you don't want to share the app on here, but once we hit into this, I'll ask you a question on that. We can chat about a couple of Shopify apps as well.
Yeah. I just don't want to throw one under the bus if it's not their fault.
Yeah.
Maybe it's us. Maybe it's not. I doubt it is, but I prefer to be nice.
Yeah. And I mean, that education, I imagine that continues, after first purchase. I mean, I imagine that comes into the lifetime value play as well, because then it turns from educating people on why they should try it to educating people on how to keep it as part of their lifetime routine, or how to incorporate it into their daily routine as well. And like making
Absolutely.
a schedule out of it, if you will.
Yeah, there's that. And then there's new studies coming out all the time. And so, we had a belief that CBN, which is a different cannabinoid than CBD, we had a belief that that helped with sleep. And it wasn't until a month ago that the first like longitudinal double-blind placebo-controlled study came out and proved that. It put CBN up against melatonin, and it had a statistically significant result in the fact that CBN helped people not only fall asleep faster, but stay asleep longer and have more restful sleep than melatonin did. And so the science is oftentimes behind of what we're doing, but the science helps us then educate and validate with our customers. Like, hey, I know we have a CBD/CBN product that we already market as a sleep tincture, but here's the science that just came out last week that is, validating some of the things that we've been telling you. And so that part is going to never end in my industry. The science of it all is evolving so fast, and there's always going to be a new study coming out that we want to share with our customers.
Yeah. And honestly, now my brain's kind of racing on with the lifetime value, because think about toothpaste, and there was a marketing book I read, years back, but I was talking about how, X percentage of America used toothpaste before they added mint flavor to it. And it was very minimal, like very, very minimal percentage of people. And then they added that mint flavor to give people the psychological immediate benefit of I'm doing something right because I'm feeling that fresh feeling. And that translates into sunscreen as well, which is, most people don't use sunscreen like they should every day on your face, on your body, because there's no net benefit in the short term, because you don't feel anything. Like, you don't have any sensation when you apply it or anything like that. It's just, and we're working with a company right now that's, they're for concealed carry weapons, and they make like a foam pad that goes in between the concealed carry and your body. And the whole purpose of it is comfort. But it's one of those things where until you try it, you can't experience the comfort. So it's like, how do you communicate that message? But with the CBD product and with lifetime value, people can get the net benefit of, the better sleep, the things like that. But helping them see that the causation of that is your product, I think, is one of the key factors that would really help with that lifetime value that way.
Yeah, I think so too. I think
at this point, but
I think you hit the nail on the head though. Like, we talk about it all the time that, like, in my industry, Delta 8 became a big craze really fast, right? And Delta 8 was this synthetic cannabinoid that they actually would take CBD out of the plant, they would synthesize it in the lab, change its chemical structure, and then they created Delta 8. Delta 8 is another form of THC. Delta 9
Mm-hmm.
is the THC that we all know of in marijuana that has a psychoactive effect, gets you high. Why, you look at that, like, why did it happen that way? Well, people wanted to feel something, right? Look at all the industries where people do feel something. Look at the rise of pre-workout and supplements. Like, why does pre-workout like sell so well? Well, you feel something.
Boost
You
you,
face
yeah.
tingles, like, like you got to do something, right?
Yeah.
And so I think the struggle that I have is a lot of times people come to me for my product to stop feeling something. You know what I'm
Mm.
saying? Like, a lot of times people use a product because they want to feel something. Coffee gives them a uplift, whatever. People come to me because they want to stop feeling anxiety. They want to stop feeling pain. They want to stop feeling, awake at night or racing minds at night. They want to stop feeling these ways. And so that's another way that's like, it's tough, that like, I personally don't need to feel anything to be
Mm-hmm.
convinced to take CBD every day, because I know, and it's been shown in study after study, that CBD is an antioxidant, that CBD is a neuroprotectant, meaning it protects my brain. Meaning if I do something, I slam my head into something, I have that added layer of insurance. I don't need to feel that to want.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And just like vitamin C, like, you don't need to feel vitamin C to know, like, yeah, well, it's supporting my immune system, and so I'm just trying to protect myself from getting sick. But I do agree with you that, like, most people, they want to feel something when they take something. They want to, if they're
Mm-hmm.
buying something, they want to feel it and they want to know. And we do have those experiences with people, but everyone's so different. And since it works on a body's, unique biochemical structure, how it affects you is going to be different than how it affects someone else. And so it's just getting people to try it for 30 to 45 days, and coming up with different strategies to do that and to educate on it, I think is really where our job lies.
Yeah, I almost wonder if, like, because I mean, you think about like weight loss programs, like a before after is so easy because you can take a picture and you can take a picture, or you can step on a scale and you can see the difference. But I almost wonder, because this is, yes, there's the pain element. And I know, I guess maybe I'm trying to be too black and white with what I was first going to say, because there's pain, there's anxiety, there's sleep, there's different things. But I almost wonder if like a self-diagnosed quiz on initial purchase, like, and then 30 days later, or like some sort of tracker implemented to help them actually see that, like, hey, I'm
You get it.
improving.
You get it. I'm trying to build exactly that right now. And so, like, I look at things like 75 hard, right? Are you familiar with 75 hard? Andy
No, I'm not.
Frisella, First Form. Andy Frisella's the CEO founder of a company called First Form, one of the largest supplement companies in the U.S. right now, if not the largest. They built a bit of a cult following. He has a brick and mortar retail store called Supplement Superstores that he's expanded throughout the Midwest, where you can buy First Form products cheaper than you can even online. And then he really holds margins on the D2C side, and has built a bit of an empire. I think they do like 200, 300 million a year or some crazy
Oh,
number
wow.
selling supplements. And I look at what they did, and I'm inspired by it. But one of his best marketing tools was a challenge called 75 Hard. And it's a free challenge. It's just doing, I think you work out twice a day, you take a progress photo every day, you have to read 10 minutes a day and follow a diet. And you have to do that for 75 days in a row. And they have an app for it, and you can check it off. But if you miss a day, you start back at day one. And so now it's created this community who have done this. And it's really a like mental toughness challenge. It's like, can you do things even though you don't want to, but you told yourself you were going to? So can you override your mind and do those things? It was one of the best marketing things that he's ever done. It
Hmm.
blew up. People just loved it. And so I think of that 75 part of like, can I do like a endocannabinoid balancing system thing, right? App thing, where it's like, do you struggle with any of the following 15 different things that we know we might be able to help with? How bad is it? How often do you struggle with it? Check back in 30 days, get new answers, see if we helped. And if we didn't, maybe a money back guarantee or like a risk-free trial or something on that. So I think you're right in of something that I've been toying around with in my head of like, can we do something like that where we can show the value that we're providing?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I just signed up for Sandler sales training, and one of the
Yeah.
first things they put you through is using their cookbook, which is like basically a daily. They talk about behaviors, attitudes, and tactics, and the behaviors are the things you do daily to get to where you want to go. So like 10 cold calls a day, which I haven't started yet. I hate the idea of doing cold calling, but my attitude towards that is negative. And
Yeah.
then the tactic, of course, is that. But that's their main thing, is just having daily, behaviors or habits that you do to get to where you want to go, and tracking it so you can actually see your progress as you go forward with it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's super important.
So I know you said that, one of the biggest bottlenecks you've seen so far is the regulatory standards with things like marketing, right? So you had to carve a certain path with influencers, ambassadors. Has there been any other major challenges or bottlenecks that you've come across as you've been growing this company?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest one too on the marketing side is like the fact that CBD is still unregulated, which also not only are those channels tough to advertise in or have not been available until recently, but we just talked about a bunch of stuff that might be able to get me in trouble, right? I've seen all the warning letters. I'm not worried about it. But in traditional advertising, I can't really tell you CBD is going to help you with anxiety. I can't tell you
Mm-hmm.
CBD is going to help you with pain. I can't make any of these claims because CBD is seen by the FDA as an unregulated substance. They haven't given it a regulatory pathway yet. So pretty much any claim you make around CBD, they would see as unverified, even though there's thousands of studies out there. Israel's been studying this compound forever. If you say, this will help you sleep, the FDA can very much send you a warning letter, $20,000. You got to pay a fine, and that's the slap on the wrist before they come in and shut you down. And so, you know, part of talking about ambassadors early on was a fear of that, a fear of saying the wrong thing and getting a warning letter and saying something that the FDA would deem as a claim. And so if other people talked about their experience with our product, we were one removed from having any issue like that, especially if they were just sharing their authentic story. Now, it gets a little bit of gray area if we were to reshare that story or something on our platform, then it could still be seen as a claim. And so I think the other biggest challenge is like, how do I tell, like, I know my product, I've seen thousands of reviews come back in of how it helped them, but I'm not allowed to really talk about it, especially in marketing. And so we used to have, when we first launched our website, we had a library. We scraped every study on CBD for whatever condition. And so we had this library where you could type in anxiety and pull up .gov backed studies on CBD for anxiety or whatever. And our merchant processor scrapped that quick of like, you got to remove that because you have e-commerce on your site. Like if you want to educate, if you want to inform, you got to choose one. Either you guys are going to be educators or you guys are going to sell product, but you can't do both. You specifically can't do both on the same website. And so it's tough because we do have a passion for educating and we do have that passion, but a lot of times we have to just lead the horse to water. We can't make it drink. We can't, do anything directly there. We just have to kind of like put the dots out there and hope the person seeing them can connect them.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that being difficult. And I just had a recording recently with a e-commerce and social media marketing lawyer, and we were talking about the FTC update that just came out recently, which is now just super transparency behind affiliates and ambassadors and partnerships and things like that as
Yeah,
well.
even UGC, right? Like came into
Yeah,
that. And yeah, so I thought that was super interesting.
yeah, and I could see this industry being one that they do, because it's hard for them to govern everybody. I mean, there's
Yeah.
tons and tons of businesses and influencers and stuff, but I could see this industry being one that they do, monitor a little bit
Yeah.
that way. So, well, I'm sure, as the laws progress and things continue to go forward, hopefully those restrictions and things like that get a little bit better. I know Facebook is opening the doors to marketing. I believe there's even some,
To
uh,
top. Yeah. So Twitter
yeah.
started it, and then Facebook Meta said you can advertise topicals, no ingestibles, and the topicals must be certified through a company called BitScript.
Hmm.
And that's kind of like uh, the marching orders if you want to compliantly advertise. We've been looking into legit script. It's just crazy all the things that our industry has to do and all the price that gets added on, because even just to get LegitScript, I think it's like $800 per product and like $2,500 initiation fee to get started with them. And it's just so many hoops that you have to jump through for what? That's the part I don't get. But
Yeah, yeah. Check out one thought I just had is check out there's a company called Brez, BREZ.
yeah, I know
They're
their founder really well.
Nick
Aaron,
Shackelford.
Aaron Nobish.
Oh, okay, I would say, well, Nick Shackelford is part of that. I don't know if he's a founder or not, but BREZ,
Yeah,
the drink company.
yeah, drink.
Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I would say
and
check that out. He's one of the legends in the D2C area, but I think they run ads, and I think there's some things that they do
they
marketing
do.
wise.
So Aaron, the co-founder, founder, whatever he is with Nate, he has a company called Lucid
Mm.
Media, and they have been running compliant ads through Facebook Meta for like 2 or 3 years. So pretty much, if you've seen a CBD ad or if you've seen a hemp ad, it's probably been through Lucid and Aaron's company. And so like that, he's smashed with that over the last couple of years, and then just brought his own company. But he was perfectly aligned for it because his company before that was Monk, MONQ. I don't know if you
Mm.
remember seeing those guys, but they were like the first ones to be able to advertise vaporizers
Uh,
on because it wasn't vaporizing nicotine, it was vaporizing like it was like a aromatherapy vaporizers or something like that. It was like essential oils, and so he was able to find the loophole in the advertising policy of like, you guys say that a vaporizer has to have nicotine, these don't have nicotine, and so he kind of used his knowledge from Monk and then applied it to the CBD industry, created an ad agency to be able to run those ads, and now he has Brez or Breeze, I don't know how you say it, on top of it, and doing the whole drink thing with a little bit of THC in there.
awesome. I did not know that. Awesome. Well, look, if you had to summarize everything we talked about today into a marketing mindset, what would that marketing mindset for listeners be?
Um, the marketing mindset is, I think, ties in with what you're learning in Sandler's training. What are you doing every day that is going to get you to where you want to go, right? And so we talked about those three levers. We talked about, if you boil it down, you're trying to decrease customer acquisition costs. You're trying to increase LTV and all of the different avenues to do that. But choosing that avenue and then deciding, like, what am I doing every day to um, head down that path and to be able to track, am I being successful as I head down there? So I think that is a mindset, and it's something you got to do every day, day in and day out. So yeah, I've had a lot of fun talking. So thanks again for inviting me.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate it. And is there anywhere that listeners can connect with you and learn more about your business or yourself?
Yeah, so business is going to be purespectrumcbd.com. You can find out a lot more. We have blogs, all types of educational resources on there. And then if you want to follow along with my journey, especially as it relates to this, there's a new profile up there called Dan Hempman. So pretty easy to remember, Dan Hempman. And we put out reels all the time and educational resources. That's just kind of getting started. We are, like I said, we're bleeping out anytime I say CBD in those because we're trying to avoid being shadow banned or straight up banned. And so it's kind of hard to educate. And so we're having some fun with it and being a little cheeky and just treating it like a cuss word and bleeping it out anytime I say it.
Yeah.
But you can follow me there, a ton of educational content there. And then I'm pretty active on my LinkedIn as well, which is just Dan-Huerter, which is my last name, Huerter. But yeah, thanks so much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for coming on, Dan.
Yeah, of course.